Hi, everybody. This is Darius Arya, and welcome to Rome. Welcome to my little office place. This is going to be a little bit of an experiment, but I figured, given the way the world is today, given the situation in Italy, that it's a good opportunity to pull together a lot of our resources and give you all the opportunity to experience some ancient Rome, particularly on the Ides of March. Now, we all know why the Ides of March is famous and why it's important to ancient Rome. I thought we could go through some of the steps to review and maybe learn a little bit more about this important day in Rome's history. But the first thing is, why are we doing this? Because of COVID-19, Italy has been on lockdown. It's a difficult moment. A few words on the conditions is that it's not easy, but in northern Italy is where you have the most cases and the most extreme sort of circumstances. I can say that for now, at least in the region of Lazio, where Rome is located, we have maybe 300 cases. Rome is obviously pretty much deserted. We can go out and shop. There's plenty of food. There's plenty of medicine in the pharmacies and so forth. But pretty much everyone wants us to stay at home. I'm just down the street from Largo Argentina, and a shout out to Gruppo Storico Romano, just a couple of things like that to get out of the way. They're a great resource. They do great activities, and of course, they do reenactments, one of which is going to be the Ides of March performance, which we'll see shortly, a pre-recording. And another one, of course, is the Birthday of Rome, which is the other great celebration on April 21st. I believe because of the current situation, we will not have a celebration of the birthday of Rome either on April 21st, but fingers crossed, we're going to get through this. And of course, it is an opportunity then to remember the great heroic efforts of Gruppo Storico Romano over the past several years. They're good friends. I know them personally, and just a big shout out to all the work and the organization that they have done. So this Ides of March seminar really goes out to them, to give them a big shout out, because they've done so many great things to bring the past and to make it alive. Now, what I'm offering you today is part of our Ancient Rome Live website. So I'm gonna take you through a number of our videos so that we can discuss and see a lot of the places occupied by Julius Caesar on his last day. So Ancient Rome Live, just to give you a little word about that, because I know people are joining us. I saw from Switzerland and from New Jersey and from New York, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. Ancient Rome Live is online. You can use that resource whenever you'd like. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and so we're creating this content as educational content, also in partnership with great organizations like smarthistory.org and Ancient History Encyclopedia, ancient.eu. They're great resources as well to learn about the past, to learn about ancient art, to learn about ancient cultures. So what we want to do is share with you the news that we're going to be filming inside Museo Nazionale Romano, the Roman Forum, the Colosseum. We have all these great partnerships lined up, and of course, we're going to begin filming in those locations, providing new content, really, I think, exciting content, monuments, and great artifacts and statuary in so many museums, Crypto Balbi, Palazzo Massimo, Museo delle Terme, and Palazzo Altamps, as well as the Forum, the Colosseum, and so forth. But we need first to end our current situation, and we're very hopeful that it will take place very soon. In the meantime, before we get started, then we ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is We Dig Rome, and we're trying to achieve 4,000 watched hours in the next 12 months, which is a feat, let's say, that I think we're going to be able to achieve. We just ask you, please, to subscribe if you're watching the videos and to share it. And if you want to support us further, you can go to Amazon Smile and put in the American Institute for Roman Culture. Get on the mailing list and subscribe. We're just giving away a lot of free content, educational content. So that is the plan. So now we're going to talk about the Ides of March. I'll already tell you we're going to be doing this again next Sunday, talking about the new discoveries in the Roman Forum. So if you like the Roman Forum, I encourage you to join us again next Sunday. And on Wednesdays, we will also be able to offer for children in about the middle school age a video every Wednesday. So I encourage you also to share that. We're doing one for the adults, let's say, one for the kids, although all of the information really is for everybody. And I really appreciate from California and from Pennsylvania, and I'm trying to also understanding that there are little tech difficulties, so I'm also happy to speak more slowly if that helps. Please check in your settings, both in Zoom. Okay, so Warren, who is our digital guru, is giving some help as well. But I see we have people from Venice and Poland, so people from all over are joining us in. And again, I just want to reiterate then, as we'll give another minute or two for people are jumping on left and right. The American Institute for Roman Culture, we're a nonprofit. We're American, but someone's based in Rome. I'm dialing in today from Rome, Italy, as many of you know. We're on lockdown. We want to support Gruppo Storico Romano and their great efforts. We're going to share some of their content. Today, of course, there are no events. Today, there are no opportunities to parade around and see people dressed like Romans and celebrate this moment and talk about this moment in history, a very dramatic moment for the end of the Republic, ushering in the rise and the reign of the emperors. But it is at least an occasion to come together, to talk about history, to share history, and to really get us excited about the past. These seminars will be running on Sundays at this time. That's 5 p.m. in Rome, beautiful Rome. It's a very beautiful sunny day, high of 67 today. It's absolutely glorious if you could go outside. And then on Wednesdays at the same time, we'll offer some content for kids in middle school, elementary school, and I hope you join and share that content as well. Everything will end up on YouTube. But I've got 2 kids that are being homeschooled right now as well because they can't go to school. That's just the realities that we're dealing with. So I'm kind of getting an okay, I think, from some input. So I think, Warren will ping me if we have any other issues, but I think we'll then proceed. So, the Ides of March, 15th of March, 44 BC is the date of the assassination of Julius Caesar. And it really comes down to us as one of the most consequential dates in Roman history. So why did the conspiracy form in the first place? I mean, wasn't Julius Caesar a great guy? Why was Julius Caesar killed on this particular day? Why was he killed in the Senate House located within the theater of Pompey and not the Senate House in the Forum or elsewhere? So those are some of the things I want to take a look at as we make our way through the history of Rome. So I'll give a little brief historical overview, and I would like to start off with a short video right here. So here we have a little bit of information on the predecessor of Julius Caesar, and that is Pompey the Great. And it's Pompey who really starts to gather power for himself with a long-term view, defeating Asia, defeating Spartacus' revolt, defeating all of his foes. That starts to really impact on the city of Rome. His theater complex is monumental.
And not just in the Republican period. Throughout the history of Rome, this structure is one of the great constructions of the city. And we can still see its imprint today. And we can still see its influence on subsequent imperial buildings throughout the city. In this long line of great Roman statesmen and great Roman generals, we conclude in the late Republican period with Julius Caesar. The beginning of his life in the Suburra wasn't so dramatic or impressive, but he is someone who built up momentum with the passing of time and is ultimately successful in usurping power from his fellow Romans. He ends up defeating Pompey the Great and closes the door on the Republic forever. Well, what he leaves behind isn't just reforming the constitutional government. He is now Dictator Perpetuus. But what he's also doing is he's creating massive public works in Rome, both when he's there at the end of his life, also when he's still in Gaul, working through agents to recreate the city in his own image. And what he does is he has a lot of land bought up by his agents, including Cicero, around the Roman Forum that's now, in his opinion, too crowded. The courts are too crowded. There's not enough room for people to conduct business. He builds an adjoining forum area, which he calls Forum Julian. It has a temple of his ancestress, Venus Genetrix, an equestrian statue of himself, of course, even a statue of his mistress at the time, Cleopatra. And it joins the back end side of the Cordia, the Senate House of the Roman Forum. When we look at the plan of the Forum Julian, we can see this rectilinear construction then hits a right angle.
Okay. Okay, here, so we'll come back. Okay, so I understand there are some issues with bandwidth, so we'll see how we can deal with that. Okay, so you can see me and hear me, that's great. So basically, I wanted to share with you then that little brief historical overview, is that Caesar is a brilliant orator. He forms a political alliance with Pompey the Great. We saw a little bit of the theater of Pompey, and essentially it's Crassus and Pompey in 60 BC that make their own alliance, the first triumvirate. Then Julius Caesar is going to win his consulship in 59, and from there on he sets out. A former consul is then becoming a proconsul, and as a proconsul, he is going to be able to go out and govern. So he goes out to Gaul, and what he does though is he picks a lot of fights, and he conquers a lot of territory. He gains a lot of land. He gains a lot of wealth, and he enrolls many of the Gauls into his own private army. So this is pretty much the situation that we have with Julius Caesar. And in the meantime, what he's doing is he's buying up land. He's creating all kinds of massive building projects in Rome itself before his return through agents, including Cicero. And what he does is ultimately at the end of his mandate in 50, he's thinking, I have to go back. We're already at the end of 50. He says, I have to go back. They want me to go back as a private citizen. They want me to go back as someone possibly who's going to be accused of abusing his power. So he decides to go back with his army and crosses the boundary, the kind of the point of no return, in January 10th, 49, and decides to march on Rome. If he had stopped there, broken up his army, and come as a private citizen, he feared the worst for himself. But he also argued to his troops, I don't think I've done anything wrong. And of course, come with me and we'll get a pay raise. So there are a lot of things going on here. But he goes into Rome, he takes over Rome, and then he's going to wander through the Mediterranean with his troops, picking off his foes in various battles. And as an end of it, he's celebrating 4 triumphs back in Rome between the 21st of September and August 2nd, 46 BCE. He's still going to keep on waging the wars until he cleans up all resistance in 45 and celebrates a fifth triumph in sometime in October of 45. Now he sets about pardoning his fellow Romans. His clemency became legendary, and he declares himself early on as dictator, which is an office held under extraordinary circumstances. The government kind of collapses and puts its fate in the hands of one man, but he's now deciding to not step down from that position of power. And he's taking, in fact, steps to consolidate his power. And around January, February, he declares himself Dictator Perpetuus, perpetual dictator. He's not going anywhere. And he begins to assume all kinds of regalia. He begins to assume this kind of position, this kind of attitude that he is more than his fellow senators. And a lot of people are becoming disgruntled. So he's pardoned people, he's given them wealth, he's patted them on the back, he's given up his bodyguard, right? So he's going around as a citizen, and yet he's something more. In particular, in February, Mark Antony tried to crown him during the Lupercalia festival in the Forum, a kind of symbolic crowning. The crowd kind of weighs in, they're not too happy. You know, do we want this guy to be crowned or not? At other times, he's on the rostra, the speaker's platform, greeting senators without standing up. So he's somebody more important than them, he seems to be saying. On the one hand, other people saying, well, his back is bothering him. He doesn't really want to get up. He can't really get up. But the point is, he's not getting up. And these are signs to a number of people that he is not going to be stepping down or going away anytime soon. So now the key sources to the conspiracy that eventually is hatched, well, there are a number of contemporary authors, late Republican authors, Asinius Pollio, Strabo, Ulpius Bibulus, that wrote different accounts with different perspectives, but we only have them in reference from later authors. There is Cicero's brief eyewitness account. It's very short. It survives in a letter. But Nicholas of Damascus, born in 63 BC, friend of Herod the Great, and the one-time tutor of the children of Mark Antony and Cleopatra, he records the most vivid account in his narrative within his Life of Augustus, which he wrote and published after the death of Augustus in 14 CE. Now, there are many other important sources that survive as well, but they're much later. Appian, Suetonius, Plutarch, Cassius Dio, and they in turn reference some of those authors that are lost. So now I want to turn to some of the locations, because it is particularly Nicholas of Damascus who's telling us some of the places where the conspirators actually are considering to kill Caesar. Now, who's doing this thinking? Who's meeting? These are mostly senatorial class people, led by Marcus Junius Brutus. We know Brutus. Gaius Cassius Longinus. And then we get in Decimus Junius Brutus Albinus. They're meeting privately in homes, quietly, discreetly, trying to get other people involved in the conspiracy. And the numbers fluctuate, but it's something like between 25 and 80 people. So it's not, I don't know if you want to call that a big conspiracy or a small conspiracy, but it's a lot of the movers and shakers in Roman society at the time. Now, where could you kill Julius Caesar? One idea is along the Via Sacra. And the Via Sacra is located in the Roman Forum. It's the most important thoroughfare leading through the Via Sacra, leading through the Roman Forum. So on the one hand, you can go all the way up, let's say, by the Arch of Titus on the Velia Hill, drop down into the Forum Basin, through the Forum, and then you go up to the Clivus Capitolinus, this sloped road leading you up to the Capitoline Hill. So it's really the main thoroughfare that goes past the basilicas, the Forum Piazza. It goes past the House of the Vestal Virgins. And who's in charge of the Vestal Virgins? The Pontifex Maximus. And where does the Pontifex Maximus live? Up until the time of Julius Caesar, you lived in the Domus Publica, which is located right next to the Vestal Virgins' home and the Temple of Vesta. So one place then, wanting to kill him on the Via Sacra, is because it literally runs right in front of Julius Caesar's house, the Domus Publica, and that is where every Pontifex Maximus lives throughout Rome's history until the next guy, Augustus, who decides to create another shrine of Vesta and put it next to his house on the Palatine Hill. But Julius Caesar was following the regulations. Julius Caesar was being conservative, and he lived in a nice mansion in the Forum area. So choice number one was the Via Sacra. And what I'd like to do in this moment is see if I can then give you a little view of the Roman Forum. So let me see if we have any, we can try the bandwidth again, give that a shot. You really don't get monumental architecture in the Roman Forum until the Republican period. The big temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus looks down in the Forum area. But with the Republic, okay, I apologize for the technical difficulty. I'm going to pause you. I'm going to pause you guys for 2 minutes. Okay, so we're back. And I apologize for that. Doing the best that we can, but I think this is going to work out okay. So just to make sure everyone can hear me okay. Okay, I'm going to need a little feedback. Yes, okay, great. So let's go ahead and try this video again. So now I've switched options. So let's try this right here. So I want to give you a little review of the Roman Forum. Until the Republican period, the big temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus looks down in the Forum area. But with the Republic, you get two new constructions in the Forum area. You have the Temple of Saturn, and you have the Temple of the Castors, both attributed to the 5th century BC. And although you look in the Forum today, and you see imperial versions made of marble, the Republican versions weren't much smaller, but they were made with more local materials, such as volcanic stone, tuff, and wood. By the 2nd century BC, when Rome has conquered half of the Mediterranean, the Forum itself takes on a more monumental scale and character. And the big addition is the basilicas. They will appear in monumental form on 3 sides of the Forum Piazza. As early as the 180s, you have the Basilica Portia, attributed to Cato, and the Basilica Opimia. And the 2 large basilicas on the north and south sides of the Forum forever change the shape of that space. You have the Basilica Sempronia, and you have the Basilica Aemilia. In the imperial period, what you have is basilicas on the same locations, but on a much more monumental scale with a lot more marble. But when you have those basilica spaces already in the 2nd century BC, what did they replace? They replaced shops and they replaced houses. In fact, underneath the Basilica Julia, we know we have one very famous house for sure, the house of All right, so I apologize. It doesn't seem to be sharing right now. So we're coming back. Okay. So one of the places, though, of course, that's so important then is the Roman Forum. Another place is going to be the Campus Martius. So I'm going to have to take you there. Close your eyes, because apparently for the rest of this, we're just going to have to skip with the videos. I do apologize. Everything is available on ancientromelive.org, but let's then get really, really down into it. So one idea for killing Julius Caesar. These conspirators are meeting their houses. Where are their houses located? Their houses are located on the Palatine Hill. Their houses are located on the Esquiline Hill. Their houses are located in and around the area of the Forum. But they're meeting in secret, they're being very discreet, but they know that they're not alone in that people are disgruntled with Julius Caesar. This man has to be stopped. He's gone too far, this sort of thing. At the same time, Julius Caesar is widely popular with the troops. He's throwing games and spectacles. He had 4 triumphs in a row. I mean, this is unheard of. He's being very generous to the people, to the mob, to the gods. So he's doing all right on a number of fronts. And the fact that he's going around the city without a bodyguard says how much clout, how much auctoritas this man has. So he starts off with really no money in his family, although there were consuls in his family and so forth. He doesn't really have a lot of money. He's smart, he's a gifted orator, and he makes his political alliance with Crassus, with Pompey. Pompey, who was the big general of the day before. Pompey, who followed in the footsteps of Sulla, who followed in the footsteps of Marius. We have videos on all these people on the late Republic. So they're thinking, where are we going to take this guy out? We're just gonna stab him on the Via Sacra. And this is all from Nicholas of Damascus. This is a man who had access to information. This is a man who's friends with the highest echelons of Roman society. So another place is the voting area in the Campus Martius. Now, if you don't know much about the Campus Martius, it is a large floodplain. And basically the Tiber River comes down from the north, there's a big bend, and then goes down south again, all the way out to Ostia. So in that big bend, it kind of defines a lot of the space of the floodplain. The Via del Corso, the Via Flaminia, cuts north still today from the Piazza Venezia up to Piazza del Popolo. So within that area that was originally a floodplain, you don't have much building going on, but already in the 5th century, you have a place to gather, to exercise, to practice the military maneuvers, to exercise. So they had there a voting hall, a voting space known as the enclosure, is part of the Villa Publica. If the Pontifex Maximus was in the Domus Publica in the Roman Forum, this was the Villa Publica with various components, including the Saepta, the enclosure, the sheepfold, and a very appropriate place for people to go and vote. Think about the masses, this idea of the sheep, putting them in a kind of maze, the way that we have in Disneyland or something, to make your way up, to get your ballot, write your initials on the ballot of the person you're voting for, proceed up and over a little bridge, one at a time, and then deposit that ballot into a basket. So the second place in this list from Nicholas of Damascus is to kill him there. Why would you kill Julius Caesar there? Because everyone's going to vote. So when it's his turn to vote, Julius Caesar's turn to vote, he's on through the maze. He says, here he is. He gets his ballot, little stylus, little wax tablet, writes who he's voting for, and then he is going to And then he is going to, wait a second here. Sorry, I don't need to, oops. I apologize. Okay. So I'm happy to talk, but please don't share any videos while I'm doing this. It kind of messes things up. Okay, so we're back. So the idea is that if Julius Caesar is going there, getting his ballot, and is going to proceed over this this tradition of kind of clear to all and isolated from all. Each individual is going up the ladder and over to deposit the vote. So I get the ballot, I mark the ballot, I proceed across in front of everyone, and I drop my ballot in a basket. That's when you're isolated. That's when they can kill him. And the people that are in charge, the kind of honor guard, are esteemed citizens. So it's a really big deal to be one of those people. So you're thinking about the upper echelons of society. Ultimately, the conspirators are like, we could probably run this. We could get some of our guys in there. Then it's just Julius Caesar and a couple of people. We'll get him, we'll push him off the bridge, stab him. There we go. So that's a second idea for removing Julius Caesar from the world. Another suggestion is to attack him during a gladiatorial spectacle. Because if you control those gladiators, they'll be on your side, you're paying them, you're promising them things, whatnot, then who's going to suspect a bunch of gladiators with a bunch of swords? That's what you expect gladiators to do, to have a bunch of swords. So it's kind of removes that feeling of threat, because the real rule of the gladiators in these spectacles is to fight to the death, hurt the other opponent, and so on and so forth, not to do anything to the audience. So that's another idea. And according to another citation by Nicholas of Damascus, there were gladiatorial spectacles going on in the theater of Pompey complex that would be probably using the stage itself, because at that time, there still was not yet a permanent amphitheater in the city of Rome. So there are short-term constructions for gladiatorial games throughout the city, like in the Forum Boarium, the Roman Forum itself, but you will not get a stone, concrete amphitheater until the time of Augustus. Then, of course, the last large amphitheater to be built in the city of Rome is what we call the Colosseum, the Flavian Amphitheater. So that's another great place, another great idea for them is where to kill Julius Caesar. Kill him in a place where no one's going to suspect anything, because it's typical that the gladiators have all the weaponry. And the fourth idea was inside the Senate House, because who's allowed inside the Senate House? Just the senators. So if a bunch of thugs or a mob or a bunch of gladiators show up, someone's going to know there's some trouble. So if you do it in the Senate House, then the only people that can kill them are other senators. A bunch of the conspirators are senators. Everyone's wearing these big togas, right? They're tuxedo, which are basically heavy wool garments that they're draped over their bodies to look very sophisticated. But underneath is a tunic, and on the tunic could be a belt, and that's where you'd hide your dagger. And that is what they decided to do. That is how they're going to kill Julius Caesar. But the fact that we have these different ideas is that with the passing of time, right, all these records come out, and Nicholas Damascus is a precious document, a person that records a lot of the inner workings and ideas that end up getting revealed subsequently. Now, the chosen day, the Ides of March, now the Ides can either be the 13th or the 15th of the month, depending on the particular month. It's the 15th on the, basically the middle of the month, in the month of March, sacred to Jupiter. There's a big sacrifice on the Capitoline Hill. There's also the festival of Anna Perenna. And again, this is one where we know from Ovid, Fasti, book 3, that people are going out to the countryside and they're picnicking and they're getting drunk. That's what Ovid tells us. So the idea is there's a lot of flow of the people going outside. Spring is around the corner. Let's go outside. Let's make merry. Let us go and worship Anna Perenna. So under those circumstances, then, the city's not as busy as it normally is. And the city's in a kind of a festive mood, etc. And we know also from Nicholas from Damascus that there are also gladiatorial spectacles ongoing on that same day in the theater of Pompey. And where are they meeting for this fateful day of Julius Caesar? Is in the theater Pompey complex, which has a curia. So the curia and the forum, we have a video on the curia. We have a video on the area around the Domus Publica where Julius Caesar lives. That curia burned down in a fire during riots of earlier civil wars. It's being reconstructed. You can't meet in that curia, but thankfully, Pompey the Great, such a generous man, when he built his theater complex, he put in museum spaces, porticos, gardens, temples, and also a curia, a place for the Senate to meet in. And it's there that Julius Caesar is assassinated. So in terms of our videos, again, I apologize profusely for unfortunately, I'm sorry, with the bandwidth, we'll have to work on correcting that. I'm in Italy, it shouldn't be a problem at all, so I'll see what the deal is with Zoom. But the reality is we have videos on the Theater of Pompey complex. We have theaters on the Largo Argentina complex, which has 4 Republican temples, onto which the Curia, where Julius Caesar was meeting with his fellow senators, butts up against. So you have to imagine the big plain of the Campus Martius, and kind of in the middle to the west, you have the Theater of Pompey. Big porticos, 100 meters long. If you know Rome, you're starting off just beyond like Campo di Fiori, and you're making your way to the right, to the east, toward Largo Argentina temples, where there are lots of cats that everyone is so excited about. And butting up against those 4 Republican temples, which date from the 3rd to the 1st centuries BC, you have behind Temple B the remains of the temple, the remains of the Curia, where Julius Caesar met. So we have videos in all these places, and I'm excited to share them with you, but I invite you to go. Again, you can enroll, subscribe to Ancient Rome Live. You can please go to our YouTube channel, We Dig Rome, and watch all those videos. Okay, so we're coming back to the exact number of the conspirators. We don't really know, between 25 and 80, according to various sources. And the stab wounds, think about that, if it's 1 guy per stab. Stab wounds of Caesar's body give some sense of the number of participants, and according to some of the great sources, it's between 23 and 35. If we're looking at the individual ancient sources that are passed down to us, we talked about Brutus, we talked about Cassius, we talked about Decimus. He's the man with all the gladiators on hand. Lucius Tillius Cimber ended up initiating the moment of assassination in the Curia. He's the one that grabs Caesar's toga and the pretext of discussing a false petition. That's the signal. Everyone then jumps in and kills him. The Casca brothers are both cited as well. That's Publius Servilius Casca and Gaius Servilius Casca that are striking the first blow, the most, the mortal blow. So it really is a dramatic moment, and I want to go through and read 1 or 2 passages as well. So the day is festive. People are heading out of the city. People are having a good time. And you really have this horrible, horrible reality facing Julius Caesar. There have been weeks and weeks of voices and suggestions and bad omens that are warning him something bad is going to happen, something bad. Soothsayers, Spirina, everyone is telling Caesar to watch his back. So this kind of, the voices, the ideas, the rumors are percolating, and Caesar didn't seem to really up his protective escort. Remember, long ago had given away his bodyguards. He is proceeding to the senatorial meeting in the Curia. He is going with his lictors, so he has his bodyguards that basically are still within in the office to then conduct him through the crowds. He's got a litter, so he's being carried by servants. He's got his retinue. And again, he is making his way from the Forum, maybe up and over the Capitoline Hill, or around through the Vicus Jugarius into the Campus Martius from the south. We don't know exactly what his route was, but he ends up there in the area, about a half a mile away from his house. He's ending up in the Curia of Pompey in Largo Argentina area to have his meeting. And of course, we are given a blow-by-blow account in the sources, and we are left with Julius Caesar's body at the base of the statue of Pompey, whose statue was left inside his Curia. Kind of ironically, Julius Caesar's dying before the image of his great military rival. And as a result, there is, I'm going to have a number of questions I'm going to respond to as well just shortly. But as a result, we kind of zip through the aftermath. Because, Julius Caesar's the guy that fought back. Suetonius says he even takes his stylus pen and jabs one of the guys in the face. But ultimately, he's outnumbered. And as a result, the assassins, there's this kind of ensuing chaos. What do we do? What do we do? The assassins do leave, go to their homes. The people that support Julius Caesar, like Mark Antony, they go home. Everyone's trying to figure out what to do. And there's about a day of people just meeting and sending messages and kind of, are you with me? Are you with them? And so on and so forth. And the meeting takes place on March 17th. The Senate meets to exonerate the assassins, but to confirm all the laws that Julius Caesar had previously passed. And that is a very big deal. On the 19th, Caesar's will was read, naming a guy named Octavian, who's 19 years old, as his heir. That's going to be a very big deal for his great nephew. Octavian eventually takes on the name Augustus, so the ultimate successor of Julius Caesar. On March 20th, the funeral, the grand funeral, takes place in the Forum. The eulogy delivered by Mark Antony. Actors get up wearing a mask of Julius Caesar deceased, and spout off his sayings and some of his speeches. So you're getting a real sense of who this person was, very dignified. You show the bloody toga, you stir up the crowd, and the crowd takes over, takes the body, and cremates it in the Roman Forum. That was not part of the plan. And ultimately, it's on that spot between 42 and 29, Octavian has a temple built to Julius Caesar, the god. And his soul ascends into heaven, so goes the story. Halley's Comet passes by, this has been verified, and it's interpreted as being his soul ascending into heaven. So a lot of things in the big picture work out well for Divus Julius, divine Julius Caesar. Of course, it's not all going to be said and done until Octavian eventually challenges Mark Antony and Cleopatra in the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. Octavian changes his name by 27 BC, founds a dynasty, and succeeds, you could say, where Julius Caesar failed, that Augustus forever changed Rome from a republic into a dynastic one, but building upon the steps made by Julius Caesar. Now, what Julius Caesar started as perpetual dictator was completed by Augustus as princeps, a new title, first citizen. And luckily for Augustus, he had a very long life, dying in 14 CE. And during his reign, you could say that Augustus wisely came to focus more on Caesar, the god, Divus Julius, rather than Caesar, the man. It's Caesar, the man, that we've been talking about today. So let me take a couple of questions, because I know there are a lot of great questions here I've seen. So let's see here. And I really, really appreciate all of your patience. All right. Do you think Mark Antony knew about the attempt beforehand and remained silent? Yeah, I mean, when you're reading, again, we can really come back to the sources. I can say my opinion, but what's my opinion based upon? Nothing but the sources. And there are many indications that he seems to have some kind of knowledge, but they definitely are dissuading him, delaying him from entering into the Curia. So he's there, but he doesn't go in, then he takes off. So it's kind of like, Well, I just really go in and see what's going on. Ooh, what's that noise? I better go home. I mean, that, so we kind of look at the sources like that. I mean, you can ad lib, but yes, I think to some degree they all knew what was coming. There was the possibility of assassination. I mean, Mark Antony's right there, so if he really knew what was going on, would he even have bothered showing up? I don't know. Question: what do you think Caesar would have done differently to dissuade them from planning to assassinate him? I mean, I think he thought he was doing all the right things. I mean, he pardoned people when the wars were over. He gave them back their homes. He wasn't, see, Sulla, the precedent, Sulla just killed everybody, wrote a list of the prescriptions and killed people. And Julius Caesar, when it was all said and done, the war was over, we're all Romans, let's get on with it, and so forth. But then he acts like, he started taking more roles, more king-like kind of status and clothing and attitude, and that really burned a lot of his peers. One hand is the general population, the other hand is those people that could just knock him off the top of the pyramid. So yeah, I think he could have done things a little bit differently, but again, you could also say the writing at that point was on the wall. Question: can you speak a little bit about Decimus and assassination? It seems lost to history to most people, but of course not historians. Yeah, he is, definitely tends to be undervalued, right? He's not Cassius, not Brutus. He's another guy, right? But he is very important. He is very critical making decisions, and he is the one that's bringing the gladiator to the game as well. So when the assassination is taking place, he's got all these gladiators that are waiting. And when they decide to flee, the first thing they do is go to a place that's easily fortified, which is the Capitoline Hill, and Decimus brings his gladiator. So a very important person in history. And of course, a big shout out to, and I'm going to do this at the end as well, Barry Strauss has the book on the assassination of Julius Caesar, did a podcast with him, which you can listen to, and we have a whole page devoted to the Ides of March on Ancient Rome Live, so I encourage you to go and take a look at that. That's The Death of Caesar, the story of history's most famous assassination. That book has a lot of great information. Let's see here. Is the Curia location now under road pavement now? Yes. So if you go to Teatro Argentina, it's underneath there where you wait for the buses. But one side of it butts up against Temple B. Go to our video on Largo Argentina or the campus marches, and we delineate it very closely, very well with Google Maps. So behind the round temple, Temple B in Largo Argentina, is the remains of the Curia. And of course, it goes out of use eventually, because you don't want to have a place that people can go and lay their flowers to and so forth and venerate the assassination of Julius Caesar. It becomes public latrines. And you can see those latrines, the remains of them, behind Temple A. So you end up walling up that area. It's no longer a place of meeting for the Senate. Question. Let's see. Had Antony read the will before his speech in the forum? Let's see. Yeah, it's supposed to, so the will is read at Mark Antony's house on the 19th. The funeral is on the 20th. Question. The parallels to issues that we are facing now, experts telling leadership about COVID and ignoring them is ironic and sad. What lessons might we learn for this present day? Well, I'll tell you what. You know, the term quarantine comes from the Venetians, 40 giorni, 40 days that you'd have to be in an isolation before you could come into Venice. The Italians are very familiar with the plagues. So were the Romans. Justinian plague, Antonine plague, or otherwise known as the plague of Galen. So Justinian plague in the 6th century, Galen plague in the 2nd century. I just did a great podcast. My new podcast is coming out later this month. I did investigate, I did talk with a gentleman who's a medical physician who's devoted his career to analyzing the remains, skeletal remains of ancient Romans and earlier. So we talked all about that, how going back to the Iliad, people have been documenting the plague. And in the Iliad, they actually talk about how it goes first to the animals and then jumps to the humans. And the only thing that you could do to make the sacrifices but was basically to stop your gathering and so forth. And that's exactly what they did. And that's what you've always done, is this quarantine. So we're in a lockdown. We can't be with anybody else. I think we have to take this seriously. Unfortunately, now I have all my friends and relatives also in the United States. You're facing what we've been facing now for a couple of weeks. So you need to prepare, change your social habits, no high fives and so on and so forth. Keep to yourselves. The streets are empty here, unfortunately. Take care of your families and wash your hands with soap. So yeah, this is going to be a trying time for everybody. Question: did Rome's population know about Julius Caesar's death soon, or took a while? That means only his body was taken from. Okay, so his body goes to his house and they dress the body and so forth, and then finally have the funeral. So the funeral's on the 20th. He's killed on the 15th. So there's that time to prepare the body and so on. But the body was taken by some of his household slaves back to his home, back to his family, back to his wife in the Roman Forum. But everybody knew. It was like the shot heard around the world. Everyone scattered. Caesar's dead. Oh my God, what happened? The world is ending. The troops coming in. I mean, it was like just panic, and nobody knew exactly what was going to happen at that time. So it was a very, very trying time. And so anyways, I think that, first of all, I really appreciate everyone who's tuned in. I thank all of you for your patience. It's not perfect. It's the first time we've done this. This is Ancient Rome Live Seminar. This is the Ides of March today. Next week, I want to bring you through to some of the new discoveries of the Roman Forum. We'll work on the tech, we'll work on the videos, and we'll work on bringing you a more seamless interaction between live conversation and the videos that we produce. I do encourage you again to go to our YouTube channel, We Dig Rome, to go to Ancient Rome Live, to subscribe to our newsletter as we're putting out a lot of new content as we're stuck at home. Sharing with you then all the things that we've been filming and putting together in the past couple of months. We have so much to share with you. You can support us through Amazon Smile. You can support by making a contribution to the American Institute for Culture, which is a nonprofit. And of course, you can reach out to me at any time via Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everything on the same channels at Save Rome. We're all here to talk with you and to share our enthusiasm for history. And of course, we are very excited to turn the page and get back and get outside in Rome versus being stuck inside. But we're happy today to be able to share with you a great, interesting moment in history, talking about how one act changes the destiny of the city of Rome, the Roman Empire, and a lot of world history. The Ides of March lives on, and thank you very much for joining me. Again, Sundays here at 5 p.m. in Rome for the Ancient Rome Live Seminar. On Wednesdays, it's for the kids. So we'll be reaching out and providing content to you as well, to all ages. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.